lesson, we're going to be constructing the Geneva CAM. So we have the drawing here, and it's in a template. And so we have opened up our template, and we have all the layers that we need. And so we're going to be working in the construction mode in that layer right now. And so what we're going to do is just make a construction line. And again, a construction line is something that you only use to build an object. And we're going to just put this in at 0, 0 and push enter. And then that's a horizontal line, and then I want to have one that's vertical, so I select it and then I click on the vertical, and then I'll again type in 0, 0. I prefer to start that way. It just makes it easier for me. And then I can center it by using the view cube and selecting the top. And so there's another thing I need to do here. I need to make an angle. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm just going to make a construction vertical, and then I'm just going to simply rotate it. And so I'm going to type in rotate, hit enter, select the line that I just made, push enter again, and then the base point, I'll just simply type in 0, 0. And then I need an angle that's 60 degrees. And so to make this go to the right, I type in minus 60, and that is 60 degrees from the vertical line. All right, so that is the cam, and so you'll see that they're in 60-degree increments, and there's 6 of them. So this will be very helpful. All right, so I'm only going to build one. I don't need to build 6. I can just build one of these, and then I can, through various operations, rotate it. But what I need to do right now is make all the construction lines. So I'll go ahead and make sure I'm in that layer. And so the way it works is you don't have to make new ones. You just simply duplicate them, right? And so I need to make a circle. And so in this case, I'm going to be making a circle, and the diameter here is at, or the radius here is at 0.75 inches. And I'm just basing this off the drawing, right? And so looking at the drawing, I'll make another one, and I'll start at 0, 0. And then this one will be, I'll go ahead and type in 1.25 and push enter. And then I can push enter again, and it'll give you the same feature, 0, 0. And then this one, I'm starting smaller and I'm getting larger as I go outside. That one's going to be at 2 inches, and then push enter, and then I'll do another one. I could snap in the center, but this is much more accurate. And then at 4 inches. All right, and I have a couple more to go, but so far so good. And you always want to be verifying this too. All right, so let's go ahead and 0, 0. And then we're doing the radius here, which is going to be 4.5 or 4.5 inches, and push enter. All right, so I will be able to come back to this whenever I need to, and I can always add more. So that radius for that 8 inches, and I've got the 60 degree here. And so everything looks okay. I've got this radius over here that I've got to deal with though, and I also want to start building this this object, right? So let's go ahead and in the layers here, we're going to change to the object lines, and that's what I build from, right? So when I would print this out, I would hide my construction lines. So I'm going to go ahead and build, and so the nice thing is I already have the construction lines, and I can just go simply over this. All right, so you're better off just typing 0, 0. Snapping can be a little dangerous because you might be off. All right, so and do the same thing. And in this case, I'm going to be using the intersection here at that 30 degrees and that radius. And so this one's going to be at radius of 0.25 inches or a quarter. And then, so I'm just slowly building this, and I'm now typing in and making another radius here. This is at 1.5 inches. And it's always good to verify all this before you start deleting lines and trimming things. You just want to verify this. So I'm doing this very quickly. I'm not going to keep this right now because it's in the wrong layer, but I just want to verify what I'm doing here. Okay, so these are the first parts that I need. And so if you look at the CAM here, and again, there's 6 of them, I just need to actually make a quarter of that, excuse me, half of that, right? And then I can mirror that. So let's go ahead and just build part of this. And I am going to then just start building lines. And so I have the object snap here. And so let's go ahead and we're going to offset that line, this construction line right here. So click it and we're going to offset it by 1/4 of an inch. Right, we're not deleting it, we're just adding another one. All right, and we'll go ahead and start building this out here. So I'm using this line, and so I've connected them. And so I can go ahead and trim this. Go ahead and type in trim and push enter. And you have to be careful because sometimes you get carried away here. So I just want to, if you go from the top to the right or the left to the right, you only select what you fully encompassed. From the bottom up, you select everything. So you just kind of have to be careful here because you sometimes will delete lines you don't want to. But let's go ahead and delete what we already know we don't want in this objects. And if you don't get them, you can always select them later and delete them on your keyboard. So I'll just go ahead and get the major ones out of my way here. So I'm just doing 1/4 of that CAM. And then if you can't delete it, you can just escape and then select what you don't want. So I'm still trimming. And so what I'm going to need to do probably is turn off this construction layer so I can see really what's going on here. But it's pretty clear here. All right, and I'm just deleting these or clicking and erasing them. All right, so that should be half of that CAM. All right, so what I'll do then is I'll go ahead and type in mirror and push enter. And then I'll select the portion that I want, these object lines, and then from the center, I'll just simply click it from the left to the right, and then I don't want to delete it, so go ahead and push no, and then push enter. All right, and that is the first part of the CAM. And so I have mirrored, I have one of these 6 CAM portions, and then I could start all over again and do the thing from scratch, but the easiest thing to do is copy them and actually make an array. And so we select the polar array. And so I'm going to go ahead and select the object that I need here. All right, this is the object lines. Push enter. And then what is the center point? So I already know that my center is at 0, 0, so I'll go ahead and type that in and push enter. And you'll notice that the top bar shows you how many you want, right? And so I have 6 here. And so there's 60-degree angles, and so I'm great with this, and I can go ahead and select close. Now, if you needed to edit this, you would type in explode, and that would undo the array, but then you couldn't add to it. But everything looks good, so in the object lines, so I've got the array done. All right, so let's look at these construction lines here, turn them off, and so it's hard to little see with this contrast with the blue and the black, but so be it. And so everything looks good here. All right, so now I'm going to continue building this object here. So let's get the construction lines back on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make a circle here, a little larger one. All right, now we can't really see it all that well because it's actually hidden there, but it's there. So if I turn the construction line, you can see it. So we're good. So I've got that first circle in there. So sometimes it's a graphics card issue, but there it is. I can kind of see it behind there, and I'll make another one. And I should really be typing 0, 0, but I'm getting a little lazy here. So this one's a little bigger. This is going to be the ring that's a little bit outside here, right? So I'm essentially adding these up to get this radius. So let's go ahead and we're going to offset this line. This will help me in terms of the construction. So I'm reading from the book, telling me the size. And so I'll offset this line. And first thing I need to do is tell it how far to end. It's at 0.18 inches. And then I'll offset it on that vertical line, right? Because it actually is 0.36. And so I offset it to the left, offset it to the right. And then I'll use this. I'll go ahead and just build right on top of it, right? That's the beauty of this construction line. Hit escape. Hard to see, so let's turn that construction line off. And so I can see it now. I do need to trim the key. The key is what keeps things from sliding around on a rod, right? So it have a little portion that from the rod that projects out there that keeps it onto the rod or the cylinder. Okay, so far so good, right? So you notice here that there's a center lines, and there's a lot of different ways to do this. Now, fortunately, I already have this layer in here for hidden lines and center lines. So I'll go ahead and make the center line my active layer. And so the great thing is I've already set this up. I don't need to dig around and find the lines. I'm just going to go ahead and make one. I generally start in the center, build it up, hit the escape key, and then I drag it eyeball in here. And that's going to be more than adequate for this. Hit escape. All right, and then now I can make multiples of these. A lot of different ways to build this. Now, I already know that this is all in 60-degree increments, so what I'll probably do then is just go ahead and do a polar array of the center line and push enter. And the base point, of course, at 0, 0. Push enter, right, and there they are. So that is the center of these, of the cam. Go ahead and select your center as 0, 0. And then go ahead and snap to that center, that intersection of the radius. I'll do it again. All right, so it helps if you're looking at your textbook in this case, but a lot of this is pretty obvious here. And so what this line is actually the center of that outside radius. That's the center. All right, and so it's telling us that it's a radius of 1.5 inches, extending beyond. All right, and so I am going to go ahead and just dimension this. So let's just start dimensioning these portions. I'll go ahead and get the angle here. All right, 60 degrees, so that's good. And then the radius and the diameter. All right, so 4.5 inches. And then I can just press enter. And that is active. All right, and so this is great, just being able to verify and this one actually should be a diameter. So let's make sure we have it in diameter. All right, so far so good. Got a 1-inch diameter here, and just go through them and select all the circles. And this one actually probably should be a radius because it's not a full circle for the part. All right, so this is a radius of 1.5 inches. And it's important that these dimensions don't overlap the construction lines. So always avoid that whenever you can. In this lesson, we're going to continue building the cam and dimensioning it. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and type in 0, 0. And what we're doing is we're still building, this is the center line. So I've put it in the center here. So I'm on the layer for the center line, and it's in red, so that's how I know that's in the right layer, and now obviously I see the center line. All right, so now I need to do a couple things here. I need to trim this because this circle actually is just a partial circle here, so I'm going to trim it, and then you have to be very careful, but what you want to do is you want to zoom in on it, and if you have your snap settings correct, you'll be able to just truncate this or make this shorter. If you stay right on the line, you can bring it off because you actually need a little gap there. All right, so you just stay right on that line. It'll snap right on there, like so. All right, so what that is indicating is where the center of that circle is that we trimmed for the outside of this cam. All right, so make sure you're in the right layers, and then we're going to go back to the dimension layer, and I'm going to add some more dimensions here. And so if you have a textbook or you have the snapshot of this, you can just follow along from there, and I'm just going to simply go through it all. So the gap there is a 1/2 inch. All right, so I'm kind of jockeying back and forth here. I'm going to make another line. Here's the construction lines. All right, so I'm gonna need to add some more construction lines because I actually want to build this object to the right of it. And so I need to determine how far apart it's going to be, and I'm going to go ahead and this one's going to be the top here 4 inches, and so I'm going to add these construction lines here. So this will help me when I start to do the orthographic views, and I'm going to make the side view to the right of it in a moment. All right, so all these little parts where they might be hidden lines, and you can also just do this later, and I suspect I'm going to have to do some because I probably am going to miss a couple here, so that's going to be a hidden line there. And then I have all these lines that are essentially intersecting, and so that is going to be well, we're probably going to see the end of that cam and not the hidden line there for that center. So I'm just going to go ahead and build all these out, and again, you can do this later. It's just having construction lines can make this easier later on. All right, and I'm just going to do this to the top because I can always mirror the lines later that I do. All right, so what I'm doing is that all those intersections where there's going to have to be a line on the view to the right is what I'm now drawing for us. And I'm sure I've probably missed a couple here, but as I said, I can always do them later when I'm building it. Let's try that again here. So offset, select the center line. This is going to be where the part is, and this is going to be 8 inches over. All right, so that's the construction line. And then I'm going to go ahead and build this part, so to speak, in the construction line. So I simply will offset it, and I know that the part is 1 inch total, but it's in 2 pieces at 1/2 inch. I'll select the part, move to the right, push enter again, select the part, the line, move it to the right. All right, so that's going to encompass the side view. So let's go ahead and select the object line, and I'm just going to start building this out. So because I have these object lines here, these construction lines, I can just build rectangles, and there's also a little 1/4-inch radius that I'm going to have to be aware of. So lots of different ways to do this. I think I'm getting a little lazy here. I'll just do this in a big rectangle, knowing I might have to trim this and most of it's going to disappear, but I can get this started this way. All right, so this is the side view, and what we're seeing on the left is what we would say the top view is, right? All right, so here's where I can just essentially use the object snap. All right, and so I'm just giving myself a visualization of what this is going to look like. I know I need a radius there, so what I'll do then is go ahead and use the fillet. And so what I do is I'm going to click the radius. It wants to know what the radius is after I selected it, and this is at 0.25 inches. And so what you do is you basically select the left line and the right line here, and there it builds. Now you notice all the other lines disappear, right? So I'll just very easily build that back in here, right? Not a big deal, because I have those construction lines, and I'm just going to make half of this. All right, and then I'll just mirror it, escape, and the outside is consistent, so I'll go ahead and type in mirror. And then I'll select those object lines there, push enter, select the midpoint, drag it to the left. I certainly don't want to delete it, so no, which is the defaults to. All right, and then I'm going to make some hidden lines here. All right, so I'm in hidden line. Now, because I already have these construction lines, but it's still, there's a lot going on here, so I'm going to be really careful what I'm doing here. All right, so that's a hidden line, and there's one below it. This is where the key is on that, for that cylinder. And then below it, I only need to make one, because the other one was the key. But if I have the object snap, I can just go ahead and drag along that line, and then at the intersection, go ahead and click it. All right, so those are the hidden lines. It's in the hidden line layer. And so, let's see, we've got some more, but I actually think that's going to get covered up by the line itself of the part. But I already have that construction line. Okay, so hidden lines are done. Let's get some more object lines for those intersections. And so I have them on the snap. And you can, if you don't have the object, you can always just drag it to the right. And I missed one here, I can tell. So there's one just below the construction line there. All right, I'm just building this out. So wherever there's an intersection is what I'm showing. All right, and the hidden line is actually behind it, so you really only have one here. You wouldn't need to have that hidden line behind it. But when it prints out, you wouldn't even see it. All right, so all those intersections is what I'm drawing right now. And I'm only going to do half of this because this is a symmetrical object from the outside. All right. So I'll go ahead and type in mirror. And push enter. Select the objects. So I don't need all those hidden lines right there, but here we go. I push enter, go to the midpoint, click, and to the left, and there it is. All right. So again, you can see that line. I don't really need it, but it's all right. So it's back there, but I could delete it, start over, but it's fine. Nobody will see it. Okay, so we're getting pretty close here to the end. One more lesson, I think, and I'm just going to finish this exercise. All right, for this final lesson for the Geneva CAM, I'm going to finish dimensioning it and incorporate the template. So let's go ahead and see where we are here. So I've turned the construction off, and so we can get a better sense of what we're doing here. So now I'm just going to finish all this off. So if you missed anything, now's the opportunity. So right now I have my center line active. All right, so let's get some more dimensions. Let's turn that layer back on, and let's get some more dimensions here. And so I'll just dimension this. And again, when you do dimensions, it's important that you don't overlap, that you actually leave a space from the dimensions off the part. So the line should not actually be touching, the dimension line should not be touching the part. It should have a little gap. And so I'll go ahead and fix all this, but just be aware of that. All right, so when you snap from afar, you can very easily miss where you're putting those lines. All right, so let's go ahead and put the rest of the dimensions here. 2 inches, and again, I'm gonna have to go back in and put the diameter at 2.5 inches there, and get all the radiuses. All right, so you want to just check with the final drawing, make sure that you have all the dimensions that you need here and everything's accurate. All right, let's do that one again. And so I'll drag that. We don't want it in the middle of the part. We want to have it snapping on the end, so that's fine. And the tolerances I've already set, so everything looks good here. All right, just verify everything. Now you see this diameter symbol here, and there's some ways to do this. AutoCAD's actually updated a lot of this. So if you double click on the text, you'll notice if I right click here, there's a symbol. And so if you're careful, you can actually add the symbol without it, but let's go ahead and it's deleting it. So we'll just go ahead to the symbol and select the diameter, and then I'll just manually type that in there, 2.5. So that's a nice feature. So I've double clicked the text, and then I can add those kind of symbols if you don't have them. You have to be very careful though when you do this, because if you change it later on, when you manually key it in, it doesn't always change to the new dimension. So you have to be very careful when you do this. So again, double click in there, right click and hit symbol, and you'll see diameter, and then go ahead and type in, this one is 8.00, and then click out of it. So that's a nice little feature. All right, and then we need to make the keyway notation here. So we go ahead and click, and you're going to do the leader, and then go ahead and select the center of it, click out of here, and the nice thing is you just basically click it, and then you go ahead and type in, it'll go to the left. All right, so we're going to go to manually type in 0.36 times 0.20 space keyway, and I can go back manually put this in later if I need to. So far so good. All right. Okay, so if you go to the title block now, here's the cool thing. So go ahead and type in viewport, and you want to make sure the viewport layer is turned on. If you haven't done it, we can actually change it very quickly later. So we'll go to single, leave everything in wireframe, and say 2D, and say OK, and then you simply click and drag through the window that you want to display this item. Right? So nothing's scaled here, but if you're not sure you're in the right layer, what you can do is simply just click on that box, right click, and hit Quick Properties, and then you can select the layer you want to have it in. So right now it's in Dimension. I'll go ahead and move that to Viewport, right? And so what I did is I right-clicked and I hit the properties, the Quick Properties, and so now it actually moved it to the separate layer. And that's actually very important that you're in the right layer here. Okay, so you will need to manually type all this in. I'm not going to do it all for you. You can certainly put your own name in there, but I do want to scale this, and I'm going to scale this to the drawing, which is 1/2 inch, right? And so it'll actually scale it for you. Excuse my graphics card here, but it'll go ahead and scale it, and everything should look fine. And make sure that then I'll go to the title block, and I just want to go ahead and type that in there. So I'm double-clicking here, and then I'm going to type in 1/2, and that's the scale. And scale is actually really important. If it's not to scale, the drawing will be written on the drawing not to scale, but we've just scaled this, which is a really great tool with an AutoCAD, and I'll go ahead and type in 1/2. And I'll click out of it. All right, so sometimes the graphic cards don't keep up with you, but we'll be okay here. All right. So then this is where you would put your name and all the information you'd need to. So now's the time you would go ahead and do that. So you might want to pause and put all that information in there if you haven't put it in already. So the date and the name at a minimum here. Okay, so that's in the title block lettering, that layer. All right, and so verify everything before you print this out. So in the model mode, you can see everything's here. And I've got these title blocks. So verify all your dimensions, and then you can go ahead and save it and print it out. And you've completed the Geneva CAM exercise using the new template feature.